It's been a while. I haven't actually done a Lost Mine of Phandelver Dungeon Master guide for quite a while now. I think it feels almost like 3 weeks, but I really think it's probably more like 2. So we are back to talking about Lost Mine of Phandelver. I'm just doing my sound check to make sure everything's working all right. Okay, so the sound is good. Now, for those of you who are rewatching the live stream, you will find the start time is down in the description, so you can get past all of this if you really want to, which of course is fine with me. I don't have an issue with that at all. Now, if you want to say hi to me, do it very quickly because I'm going to start in a second. Now, normally what I do is I present everything first during my live stream, and once I've done that, I then open it up to questions near the end for those of you who might have questions about the topic that I'm talking about. If it's not about the Lost Mine of Phandelver, honestly, I don't mind. Usually at the end of any presentation that I do, I will open it up to any question you have whatsoever, as long as if it's around Dungeons and Dragons, that's helpful, and if I can answer it, I will. If it's not around Dungeons and Dragons and it's about other things that I'm more interested in, like movies and other bits and pieces like that, you probably caught me, and I will probably talk about that stuff as well. I can't help myself. How's it going, Mason Knight? Hi, Kiwi, and Dear Jesus, welcome to the live stream. Thank you for joining me. Okay, all right, drink of water. Let's open it up and get started, because of course I'm going to be talking for a while, I suspect. We're going to talk about some of the NPCs in Stonehill Inn. Alright, let's get started. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons 5e. And for those of you who have been really wanting these particular videos, we're talking about the Lost Mine of Phandelver. This is a Dungeon Master's guide. It's not a player's guide, so if you are a player and you're playing the game, this is going to be full of spoilers, and I suggest that this is a good time for you to leave. Now, I'm not saying that you aren't welcome, but you're probably going to come across a fair amount of information that I will reveal, or somebody will ask a question about, and you will find out stuff you don't need to know. And I know your Dungeon Master wouldn't want that, and I'm sure you wouldn't want that either. So we will see you in the next live stream if you are a player. Otherwise, if you're a Dungeon Master, stick around, and we're going to talk about Stonehill Inn. Now, I have done videos on this particular topic, sort of scattered around, but I'm putting everything more focused this time into one sort of presentation. So if you turn to page 15 and 16 of the Lost Mine of Phandelver, you will find some information or details around Stonehill Inn. And I want to read out the passage to you before I go into the rest of this, the information that I have. In the centre of town stands a large, newly built roadhouse of old field stones and rough-hewn timbers. The common room is filled with locals nursing mugs of ale or cider, all of them eyeing you with curiosity. So this is your opening scene that is provided in the adventure, and I suggest you use it. You can change it if you like. You might have noticed that I had changed the wording from field stones to old field stones, because there is the belief that Stonehill Inn has been constructed by stones that were used to originally build Phandalin. And so a lot of the older stones have been repurposed to build this inn. Now, whether you believe that is how it should be is up to you. I don't think it's really an issue. But if you feel that's going to help in terms of building out your world, then use that information as much as you like. This is essentially the only inn situated near Phandalin, and certainly the only inn in Phandalin. So it's got a monopoly, like many shops and stores in this location. The owner or proprietor is Phandalin Stonehill. Now, Phandalin Stonehill and his family, they help run. His family help run the roadhouse itself. I've already done or made a video discussing Phandalin Stonehill and his family. So if you really want to go and check out that information, you can. It shouldn't be hard to find. Just type in his name and I'm sure you will find it. So what do we know about Stonehill Inn? Well, we know that Stonehill Inn is a modest location. It has 6 rooms to rent, and that is going to cost you about 5 silver pieces per night per person. Now, if you decide that double occupancy of a room should be charged at a higher rate, then as a dungeon master, you're welcome to do that. I didn't really sort of worry about that sort of stuff, but yes, the modest rate is supposed to be 5 silver pieces per night. The Stonehill Inn charges standard rates for food and drink and lodging, and all of their rates are at a modest level, and you can find out that information by looking in the Player's Handbook on page 158. I've already discussed this a little bit in the Toblin Stonehill video. Now, the inn is the hub for everything. Essentially, this is the one location. Now, Stonehill Inn is located in the centre of Phandalin, pretty much right near the centre. It's just above where the Town Master's Hall is and beside the Shrine of Luck. Now, the inn is the hub for pretty much every adventure hook, rumour, and all the information that you might sort of, or at least the kernels of information that you might want to reveal to your players and their characters. Don't present all of the rumours at one time. Please don't do that. It's too much information for you. It's too much information for your players. So keep it to like 1 to 3 tips or tidbits as you go. And honestly, it is possible to drop one of those tidbits and it still give you the kernels for 3 different adventure hooks if you really want. And I will explain as I go. Characters can spend a little time in the common room chatting up the townspeople, and they can really provide some very useful information. And although it seems like very small chunks of information, they're still interesting and useful enough that you'll find that your players will have enough to go with when they're starting off. So what are some of the rumours? Now, the rumours that your non-player characters, your NPCs, can present in the inn come from a number of different locations. And I want to go through each one individually and sort of flesh them out as best I can, so you can sort of make them your own. I don't want to give you stuff because there isn't a lot in here on these characters, so rather than me presenting what I would do, I'm going to present you with a kernel of an idea, and I want you to take it with a grain of salt. You do not need to use it this way. Make it your own. There's plenty of room for movement. Let's start off with the first one. Nath, the old farmer. Now, I have presented you with an image of, I view him as being sort of big heavy beard, quite dark, dirt underneath his fingernails, wearing sort of clothing that's either dirty or dark in colour, and I'd given him a hat. I decided that a hat that would sort of shield him from the sun back and front would be the kind of hat that he would wear. It's been around a while, and of course it's done its job. His features would obviously be a little bit worn and so forth because of exposure to the sun, things like that. And he's got that eye about him, that sort of no-nonsense eye where he's a very practical individual. Farmers are usually quite practical in their application and don't really have a lot of time to waste because they work such long hours. And Nath is that kind of person. Now, what can Nath tell you? Sister Gali, who oversees the Shrine of Luck, recently left town for a few days and then returned wounded and exhausted. Now, this is supposed to lead you from Nath, this little bit of information is supposed to lead you to the Shrine of Luck, where the sister will then proceed to give them the next quest, which is the Banshee's Bargain. This is Agatha of Coneberry. I've already done a video on Agatha, and you're welcome to go and check that one out. So why is Nath dropping this little chunk of information? Is it only because we need to get players to the Shrine of Luck to follow that particular adventure hook? Or is it because Nath actually respects the sister? Now, it's hard to say exactly anything about the sister because Galia has those kind of those features that sort of suggest that she's maybe human, elf, or half-elf. And I am not going to go into a lot of detail, but I would say that it's probably a sign of respect from Nath with regard to the sister. So let's talk about the next character, and that is Elsa. Elsa's a fun character. Elsa is a gossiping barmaid. She's young, she's pretty, she's got quite a revealing sort of outfit, all the sorts of things you would expect from a barmaid. She's always got a happy smile on her face. She's a bit flirty, but she's not available. And I picked this image because this is the problem with barmaids, is your players will always have a character, somebody who's going to try and play a character who's going to get it down with the barmaid. So I made her seem available, but she is not available. I was taking the coyote approach to this, if you might say, for those of you who are aware of that particular movie. So she's available, or seems available, but she is not available. She's always happy, she's always got something interesting to say, and she is definitely going to give lots of information. This is not the only information she could relieve from people from and then pass on. So this is just a little bit of a snippet. Darren Edemath, the orchard keeper, is a former adventurer. Now, but this is a drop only essentially to sort of say, okay, look, you know, if you tell me you're adventurers or you're looking for jobs and so forth, maybe he can help. Maybe he can lead you to the next job if you're not too sure what to do. Maybe he can help you answer some of the questions that I can't. Elsa can't really answer a lot of the questions that the players' characters would have with regard to things like where is Cragmore Castle, who is the Black Spider, all that sort of stuff. But she will pass them on to somebody who she feels might be able to get that information to them. So that is her motivation. She's just trying to be helpful. And the lead that she is providing is essentially to get to Edemath, the orchard, which then leads on to Old Owl Well, because Darren is going to talk about the fact that there are undead there, that there has been sort of signs of people being chased off, and there's a bit of unusual activity, and maybe that's a good place to start. It's not necessarily the hook and the information the players were looking for in terms of getting them to rescuing Gundren Rockseeker, but it's certainly, I would say, something you would drop from Elsa later on in your campaign when they've done a lot of the other bits and pieces in the story. So that is Elsa, and Elsa is well respected by Phandalin and the Stonehill family, which is why she's still doing the job and doing a great job as it happens. This is the next character I want to talk about, and actually probably the most important NPC in Stonehill Inn, in my view, and that is Lanar the Miner. Lanar the Miner is a pipe-smoking dwarf who's a bit rough around the edges. He's a miner, so he usually comes in with a few sort of injuries, and whether that be on his hands or on his face from just the mining process, usually quite dirty, doesn't really, smells like so many different things, but certainly wet dog is often something that comes to mind, but of course charcoal, stone, rock, other things, and of course he doesn't necessarily clean himself very often. And this is often a case of what miners are sort of, you know, they work hard, they work in a dirty environment, and people might view them as unclean, but the fact is that Lanar cleans himself quite often. The problem is he gets dirty all the time because he's constantly doing mining work. Now, why is he in this particular inn right now? It's quite unusual, because you would think he would be on his site mining and doing various things, but he's not right now. He's here, and here's the opening I'm going to give you. Orc raiders have been seen on the eastern end of Tribor Trail. The townsmaster is looking for someone to run them off. Now, why is he providing that information? Now, I would say that Lanar is doing this because he can't do his mining on his site without fear of being raided or captured or killed by orcs in the area, because no matter what you think, orcs are going to move around. Their war parties shift and change their locations. So he is at threat. Now, if he drops that little snippet, particularly if the player's characters are looking for another job, he will drop that. And now the great thing about this particular adventure hook is it will lead them to the townmaster's hall. And 3 different adventure hooks that you can then follow up from there, which is really, really cool. I will go into them in a second. So this is why Linar is doing this. He's dropping it because if the player's characters get involved, deal with the orcs, he can go back to doing his mining, because right now, hanging out here in the inn, he's not staying there. He's not staying in the inn and having a room at the inn. He's gone to the inn because currently the tavern in Phandalin is absolutely, completely full of really rowdy red brands, and nobody likes going to the tap house. The sleeping giant tap house is full of red brands, and nobody really drinks there anymore. Everybody is actually drinking at Stonehill Inn, which is great for business in terms of Tomlin, but it's not great for business if you're the owner of the sleeping giant tap house. This is why Linar is actually here. Now, if they go to the Town Master's Hall, they'll find out from, I believe it's Harbin Wester, that he has a bounty on orcs in the area, and there's a bounty for actually bringing back the heads of orcs or disposing of orcs, and this is the adventure hook called Orc Trouble. He also will help lead the players into 2 other quests. Now these are mostly around Sildar Hallwinter, which I've talked about before, because Sildar Hallwinter will be spending quite a lot of time in the Town Master's Hall trying to deal with all the problems that Phandalin has. And that is, one, he's going to want the players to go and find Cragmore Castle, which they probably already want to do, so that they can rescue Gundren Rockseeker, unless of course they have already been to Cragmore Castle and already helped Gundren Rockseeker and brought him back alive, or at least brought back his body if he died. And the other one is to find out what happened to Ianu Albrick. He's been trying to hunt down what happened to this particular individual. He was supposed to actually bring order to this location, and we haven't heard anything from them. So you actually pick up 2 really important adventure hooks. That is, find Cragmore Castle and find Ianu, each of which will lead to Gundren Rockseeker. And if you don't need to worry about those things, it will lead them into the orcs. Now the orcs, I have to say, out of all the encounters I've ever run, has been probably the most traumatic for most groups. But you will find that out, and we'll talk about that in another video. So that is the Linar's motivations behind dropping that particular adventure hook. Our next character is actually the wife of Tomlin Stonehill, and that is Trelina. That's the innkeeper's wife. She looks tired most of the time. She's very kind-hearted. She's a practical kind of person. She wears a green dress, which is a little bit revealing, but not quite as revealing as Elsa's dress. It's usually a little bit dirty because she's got like an apron to deal with all of the... She does the most of the work. She's the workhorse in this location, and she does everything pretty much in terms of cooking and cleaning. She's got a shawl draped over her, and she's got a bunch of keys hanging around her waist. She's got her hair tied up because every time she let it down, although it looks really pretty, and Tomlin likes her hair down, it actually is not very practical, which is why she's bundled it up, kept it out of the way so it doesn't get in the way, because she's doing so many different things. Whether that's looking after people who want drinks, or preparing food, or cleaning, she does a lot of work in this location. And she will drop a hint for the players' characters, and actually quite an interesting hint, but I would suggest to you to use that opportunity at the right time, because remember, this is going to lead into the red brands. And this is what she has to say. HowtoDandD, a local woodcarver, stood up to the red brands about 10 days ago when they came by his shop, and they were leering at his wife. The ruffians murdered him. Several townsfolk saw it happen. The red brands grabbed his body, and now his wife, daughter and son have gone missing too. It's terrible. Now, she may not actually directly say, we would really appreciate if you dispose of the red brands because they're causing trouble and they have already murdered somebody, and we think they're responsible for taking somebody captive and possibly murdering them as well. She's not necessarily going to allude to that. She doesn't actually know what happened to the missing members, but you will as the dungeon master, And of course the rest of the townsfolk don't actually know what happened to them as well. What the Red Brands have done is they have taken Thal's wife and children, and they are hiding them in their secret hideout, their little hideout or location, which is the Red Brand hideout. This is your lead-in. This is essentially where it's trying to take them. You are leading your players into a confrontation with the Red Brands. And if you drop this hint and they decide to follow it, I would lead through with the Red Brands Ruffians encounter, where they encounter the Red Brands in town, and play it out as the Old West. Think about Wyatt Earp and the showdown at OK Corral. Play it out like that. That battle, it's a legendary battle. It's gone down. Everybody knows it. There's movies, there are stories about it. So I would play it out if the players' characters get involved with the Red Brands like that. That's my view. So don't bring that in unless they have dealt with things like Gundren Rockseeker. If they have lost the trail on where to find Cragmore Castle, then you can use this as a lead in if you wanted to. So they deal with the Red Brands, and hopefully they find out where Cragmore Castle is from the Red Brand Ruffians, or from the hideout, or somebody within the hideout, and I'm sure that's possible. Okay, we're going to move on to the youngest member of Stonehill, and that is Pip. Pip is the Tomlin's young son. He's usually quite dirty. He's a curious individual. He's got the eye of being a little bit on the a smart aleck, but like most young children, that tends to be the case. Although he's dressed as if he's a pauper and a farmer, he's not. He does do chores and so forth around the place, but often a lot of the dirt and grime on him is a product of getting up to mischief and doing things unrelated to the chores that have been allocated to him from his father and his mother. His garb and the way he dresses, he knows that he's going to wind up tearing things up, so he usually wears something capable of dealing with that, and which is why Trelina has actually provided him with some gear, and there's repeated sewing stitch marks on his clothing as it's falling apart from all the activity that he gets up to. He is a good source of information, and probably the best source of information if you want your players to be able to get through the Red Brand hideout without too much fuss, because he can actually lead them to the back entranceway, the secret entranceway, rather than through the front door, if you might say. So I'm going to just read out his section, and then I want to talk briefly about sort of his motivations for doing this. Quillan Elderleaf, or Quillan Elderleaf's son, Carp, said he found a secret tunnel in the woods, but Red Brands almost caught him. They didn't catch him, but they almost caught him, and he's been a little bit worried about going there. He does know, though, they are what appears to be some sort of secret tunnel or location that gets into their hideout somewhere in the woods. He's pretty sure he does. So this is going to lead the players' characters to Elderleaf Farm, and that'll open up their ability to get to the Red Brands. Certainly to get to the Red Brands hideout through the back door if you want them to do that. They also can find out from Quillan that there is an individual by the name of Rudolph the Druid, who lives in Thunder Tree, and he has lots of information, knows huge amounts about the area, and he lives near a dragon. So he's not a good idea if you want your players to avoid exploring Thunder Tree and dealing with a dragon. So don't drop that one until much later on. But he will know the location of Cragmore Castle. He will know the location of many different areas or places that the players might be interested in through their characters. So you actually get the opportunity to pick up 2 different adventure hooks from Pip by following his advice and going to Elderleaf Farm to find out from Carp what he knows, and then of course from Quillan as well. Now, why is Pip doing this? Well, Pip is the sort of individual who would know pretty much what his mother and father are going through, and he's totally aware that the Red Brands suck, that getting rid of them would be awesome. And so if he would want to make it easier for the players' characters, particularly if they showed that they were willing to stand up to the Red Brands. So if they had an encounter, for example, with the Red Brands, you could pull Pip out of the inn and have him have a chat with them after their battle with the Red Brands or the Red Brand ruffians in town, when you do your sort of your Old West OK Corral, Wyatt Earp scene. You could drop his information so that they could then pursue that, find out where that secret entrance is, and then deal with the Red Brands, and then hopefully find out additional information about Cragmore Castle if they still need that, and if they don't, then they don't. The last character is Frida. Frida is a weaver. The thing I find interesting about Frida is she's one of the individuals within the story that doesn't necessarily need to be there, but she actually has a lot of really interesting information, and she actually leads the players on a journey that is sort of covert, but also a darker path, and she doesn't even know she's doing it. So she has an elegant, simple dress. It's clear that she's made it herself because she's a weaver and she knows how to sew. She's got some fine jewellery. She's got reasonably attractive features, but you can tell that she's got worry lines on her forehead. She gets caught up into things quite a lot, and therefore, as a result of that, she always looks like she's under some sort of stress. She's wearing a purple dress or top with what looks like an overcoat of some kind, but without sleeves, obviously. So it's sort of the kind of garb that you would expect a man to wear, but it's got a feminine look to it. And as I said, why is she dropping this? Because she has a lot of concerns. Now, what does she say? The Red Brands hassle every business in town, except the Phandalin Miners Exchange. They don't want trouble with Halia Thornton, who runs the place. So we already know quite a little bit of information. We know that Phandalin's Mine Exchange or Miners Exchange is not getting affected. Lennar might be able to explain why that's the case. That's up to you whether you want to sort of feed into that. If they go and ask questions from Lennar, the miner. And that leads them to the mining exchange. Now, what is there at the mining exchange? The mining exchange will lead them to Halia giving them a job offer to eliminate. She will be quite blunt about her approach. To eliminate the Red Brand leader. She doesn't want the whole gang wiped out. She believes and reiterates that she believes that taking out the Red Brand leader is the important thing to do rather than taking out the whole gang. Now, her motives, and the players will never be aware of this because you shouldn't make it obvious in any way whatsoever, is she wants to take over the Red Brands herself. She is a Zentarum spy, and therefore she would be quite happy to control Phandalin through the Red Brands. So if they pick up this particular adventure hook, they're actually playing into Halia and the Zenth. And it won't necessarily be to the betterment of Phandalin. So I actually find Frida providing this is the one character who probably shows the most concern about what's happening to Phandalin. And she's dropping the hint and tip that will get the whole of Phandalin not out of trouble, but into different trouble, which is quite interesting. It's quite a nice twist for those of you who are interested in twisting your story just a little bit. Okay, now the best rumour to drop, as I said, is Lennar, the miners, adventure hook and rumour. So drop that one, and that will lead them into those 3 hooks which they can pick up. And you can present all of them or just some of them. I would suggest presenting all of them, and they can then make a decision about what is most important and what they can do, because it does give them plenty to work with. Any NPC in the inn can tell the characters that the Red Brands frequent the Sleeping Giant tap house and that they are trouble. That is common knowledge. You do not need to go into all of the non-player characters' flaws, bonds, personality traits, and ideals. It isn't actually necessary. You do not need to build that kind of complexity. And I know there's going to be somebody on the internet or somebody on YouTube who says you should build complexity around even the small NPCs. That's a lot of extra work. You've already got enough work to do. I've done tons of videos on the main NPCs in your campaign, and so why do you need to have all the information on all of these smaller characters right down? You can do that if you want. I have provided you with a picture, a description, what they say, a basic motivation for why they're doing something. That's enough. And if anybody says otherwise, I'll tell them where to go, because it's unfair to a dungeon master to have to do that level of preparation. Now, if you like that sort of thing and it's important to you, that is fine. I'm not going to give you a hard time about that. But for those of you who are preparing this, do not get caught up in the zeal that people insist. If that's their choice, they do it. But for you, you do not need to do that. Okay, what about some of the key characters? Would the NPCs in the inn actually know about them? Now, the ones that I've just talked about, I've talked about Trelina and Pip a little bit with regard to what they sort of know. Do they know anything about Gundren Rockseeker? How much do they know about Gundren Rockseeker and their brothers? I really think that's up to you. It is possible that Lanar, the miner, knows a little bit about Gundren Rockseeker, but the Rockseekers didn't really spend an awful lot of time with people in Phandalin. There are key individuals they had interactions with who would know about them, and I've already talked about that to some extent. But not every NPC needs to know something about Gundren Rockseeker and the Rockseeker brothers and their mine. So don't get caught up into that sort of that argument. It's up to you what you do with that. What about Iano Elbrick? Iano Elbrick isn't really known by any of the NPCs in the inn. And the reason being is because Iano never really made his arrival at Phandalin clear. He actually made arrangements with the Red Brands to meet in secret. And in fact, him going to Phandalin, he probably went under a pseudonym and may have dressed completely differently and may have not even actually needed to go into Phandalin itself and gone directly to the Red Brands meeting point. So that doesn't mean that your NPCs don't know something about Iano. But I don't think that the adventure actually makes it clear that they knew anything whatsoever about Iano Elbrick. So you don't need to worry about doing that sort of stuff if you don't want to. So that's all I have on Stonehill Inn. I know that it doesn't seem like a huge amount of information. I feel that a lot of people can get a little bit carried away with the kind of information and detail that you give in any kind of adventure. But if you found this interesting and educational or helpful, please share and like the video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos. If you want to support my channel, you supported my channel by watching this video. I have hundreds more, lots of videos on the Lost Mine of Phandelver for anybody who might be interested. This is not the only one. There's a whole series on them. Now, I don't do Patreon, but down in the description you will find affiliate links to the book depository and Amazon where you can buy stuff online. I get a small commission. You pay exactly the same price, and that helps support me doing more videos. Now, this is your opportunity to ask questions, give feedback, or just disagree with me or agree with me or just say hi. You can do that in the live chat right now. Start typing away. Now, if you're not part of the live chat, that's what the comments section's for. Use the comments section. I do respond to people, so don't feel like if you type something in, I will never respond. That's not the case. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, I'm not gone, but I need to breathe. Okay, so it's question time. Let me pull up my face so you can actually see me, and I will get myself into a better position. And we'll have a discussion, shall we, about all the things that I've just said or all the things that I haven't said that you needed to talk about. All right, we're back. Aha! Let's go through the chat box. I can see the chat box has been very busy, so let's do this quickly. And I can see there's a lot of people in the room. So, for those of you who are wondering what goes on now, essentially I will answer questions on Stonehill Inn in particular, or the Lost Mine of Phandelver. If there are questions I can't answer, probably going to wind up with a video or a live stream at some point on that topic, more than likely, or I've already done a video on that topic. If it's not about the Lost Mine of Phandelver, that's fine too. I will answer questions unrelated to that as well, for those of you who feel like you need to have a chance to converse with me, and that's fine. Alright, so Mason Knight, hi. We've already said that. Kiwi, hi. Dear Jesus, hi. James Thomas, how's it going, James? Chris, hi there. Alright, Dear Jesus, what have you got here? For the inn I give atmosphere, you can print a picture of it and have it taped to the outside of your DM screen. Good idea. I think that's actually not a bad idea. If you've got a picture or image of what is going to be the inn or the location, you could print that out and then tape it on or clip it on to your Dungeon Master screen if you use a Dungeon Master screen, or if you have a tablet or a laptop, you can just have that there electronically, flip it around, show people, flip it back. So good idea. I used to do that quite a lot myself when I was running this adventure. I had a tablet and I would actually have images on there and flip it around so people could see, and then I'd flip it back and continue with what I was doing. Frankie D Crafter, hey, how's it going? Tommy, how's it going, Tommy? Howdy folks, off the chess club. Have a great weekend. Oh right, you have a good time at the chess club, Tommy. Chris, what's this, Chris? She's got huge tracts of land. Huge tracts of land? She's got huge tracts of land. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Chris, but I suspect I know what you're talking about. Okay, let's keep it clean. This is a family show. Nico Mary. Hi, how's it going, Nico Mary? Nico Mary, sorry about that. Chris. Rescuing Gundren was the last focus goal of my group. Was the laser focused goal of my group laser focused? Well, I think laser focused is good. If that's the thing they're trying to do, good. And if they're not trying to focus on that, then maybe you need to drop a lot more stuff in front of them so they do follow that path. It's all right to have a sandbox and to kind of push them in the direction you want them to go. Otherwise, the story element sort of gets lost a little bit, and Gundren is an important factor to it, even though there's not a lot of information on Gundren. And I've done videos on Gundren Rockseeker, so if you have questions, go watch the numerous videos on that. Okay, what do we got here? Bromos Sunstar Ranger. Hi Bromos, how's it going? Sunstar Ranger. Every time I see your name, I think Sunstar Ranger, and I start thinking of Buzz Lightyear. I don't know why, it just pops into my mind. Salutations, mate. Salutations. Next, what else have we got here? Chris, hey there. No, yep, Joe's jumped in. Whoops. Joe Bromos. Brent. Hi. Darren, how's it going, Darren? Looks like I will have to catch the rerun. It's fine, Darren. I know you're probably at work. I know this doesn't necessarily line up with everybody, and I do appreciate that my job changes when I can do my live streams now. Access Amazing. Hello, how's it going? Access Amazing. Chris, awesome info, Fred. Love the picture you included. Good. I actually used these pictures when I was running the Lost Mine of Phandelver. I know a lot of you are starting to think, Fred, you have a lot of these characters, particularly the female characters, seem to be very young. And one of the issues I found as I was working my way through here, because it doesn't follow that pattern all the time, is I was like, who would actually go into a fledgling town? It's probably going to be younger people rather than older people, because it's such a hard life. To go out and break new ground is something that is done by the young rather than the old. That doesn't mean there aren't individuals in the town who are a bit older, because there are, and I've shown you some of them. So yeah, so I've tried to have there be a mix, and it's not going to be completely clear till now, well, till later on, what that mix is, because there's lots of videos to do on Phandalin. Darren, I have a question. Good. What did I miss? You missed a lot, I think. Dear Jesus. Oh, Fred, Facebook, there's a picture of a party in the inn. That's a good pic to use. Yes, there is. So if you want to pick up some of these pictures or images, you can get them off the internet. If you want to be able to pick them off easily, what I can do is I can post up on Facebook the images that I have in my stores, in my folders, and you can then just copy and paste them in later on. I won't necessarily label each one of them, but it should be pretty clear if you watch this video which image is supposed to be for which character. So if that would help people, I'll do that today. I'll put it up on the HowtoDandD Facebook group. Just anybody can apply, and I'm the one who runs that, nobody else. And I will bring you into the circle so you can get access to those images if that would be useful to you. If you want all of the images, you need to let me know. I will just put up the character images for now, and we'll see how that plays out. But there is already the image of the inn that I showed. Not all of them, but some of them. Brent, laugh out loud. Darren, same. Okay, all right. Chris, where do you get pictures for the NPCs? Just off Google is a guess. Yes, exactly. I just Google them. That's where I get all of my bits and pieces. I just go through Google and find the things that I think sort of marry up with the NPC. It's actually a time-consuming process. It takes a long time, and you've got to be careful when you do that sort of thing that you don't lose perspective on putting your time into something else. But as I have already done it and spent hours and hours looking for images because I was like adamant that I needed to have a picture for every NPC, no matter how small or insignificant they were, I had to have one. But you don't need to do that because it did take me hours to get what I did. All right, dear Jesus, what do you got here? I just need a drink of water, by the way. Sorry. Dear Jesus, Carp wants to be an adventurer, so having him attached to one of your players or players' characters can make things interesting. Yeah, well, why not? And I think you'll find that Pip is very adventurous himself. And I suspect that Pip and Carp, those two boys, get up to a lot of mischief and know a lot about what's going on around Phandalin. They just don't reveal everything that they know. And if anybody's going to know anything, it'll be those two boys. So yes, you can go with that as you see fit. Dear Jesus, yep, Google or find something different that fits your playstyle. Exactly, you do not have to use the images that I have provided you with. You could use something else. Just because I viewed and drew a picture in my mind or selected a picture that I thought would fit that character does not mean you need to use that particular type of character in your own game. One of the things I've found is it's really hard to find really good images of old women who don't look like they're so fragile and frail, that look like it's sort of more medieval and fantasy orientated. It's much easier to find young women rather than old women, and I find that to be a little bit frustrating at times, but you can get around that. You just need to do a little bit of work, I guess, and not worry about having an image for every single character. You can just describe them. Chris, makes sense. I need to start pulling pictures off the internet. Good detail to include. What I find, now for those of you who are wondering how, I did not write down all the information on those NPCs. So we were talking about 6 very minor NPCs. Hardly any, they've got very little importance compared to some of the other NPCs. All I did is I had 3 lines of notes when I was doing this. And all I did was describe what I saw on the picture, for those of you who are wondering how I came up with my descriptions. I just describe what I saw of the picture. This is what I often do. And then I look at their expression, because I've often picked the image to have a feel behind it that I think will work for that character. And I will describe from the facial expressions on the picture their motivations and how they feel and what their demeanor is. I did all that from just a picture, and you can do the same. So it's not hard. It's nice and easy. Easy peasies. You can do it. What else we got here? Dear Jesus, important. do ask your players if they like visuals. Yes, well, a lot of players do like visuals, and you'll find that some are fine with just you describing stuff, but pictures often work really well. Some players might like to use their imagination. Exactly. Dear Jesus, you've got good advice there. Darren, please post them. There are good images. Okay, I will post all of the non-player characters that I used in this video on Facebook, on the Facebook group, and you can then copy and paste them if you need to. Makes it easy for you to find them then. I will do that, Darren. What's that, Chris? Yes, thanks, Fred, for putting the images up. I will do that. Do you present a town map to the players? Yes, I do. What I did not do was I did not present them with necessarily the image that had all of the labels on it. So, for example, the image that I showed you, which I'll pull up right now, I don't necessarily use that one. I use one that has no ledger to it or labeling on it. And the rationale, because this map here is really for the Dungeon Master, and they won't know where everything is straight away. So what I do is I give them an image or a map of Phandalin. It has no labeling on it whatsoever, and I just point to locations. This is where their house is. I know where it is because I have a map with labels, but they don't. And then I let the players make notes on the map. What they would do is they would draw like a number or write a number on a particular location, and then on the side of the map I'd leave a space where they could write additional information, or on the back of the map, and they'd write, okay, number 1 is Stonehill Inn, and we've been to the Barthen's Provisions. We'll mark that as number 2, and on the back they would write number 2 is Barthen's Provisions, and that helped them negotiate and figure out where they were going. You don't have to do it that way. You can do it any way you like, but that's what I used when I was running the game. Right, back to my face. For those of you who like to see a person rather than hear somebody. Okay, so I've covered that. Presenting the town map. Old people were rare back then. Now, I think the thing is that a lot of people don't necessarily do old women unless it's a villain. I guess the idea being that the characters that are women are going to be villains or witches or stuff like that, and so you don't get a really diverse sample of that. It's like anything, right? If you go and watch a movie, or not so much read a book, but certainly movies, there aren't a lot of different age groups, and particularly old women aren't high on the rafters in terms of the scale, not unless it's really about them. Okay. Dear Jesus, by the way, guys, you may be interested in Pathfinder NPC character deck. Yes, I've done a few videos on the Pathfinder or Game Mastery Paizo face cards, and it's really quite helpful. I find that because they're about that big, that tall, and you can easily just hand them out and show them to people to represent your characters if you really want to. So usually I find the best ones are mixed up with other stuff, so you have to buy a few decks to get what you want, but you can reuse them with people who aren't familiar with those cards. So I like those. They're a good idea. Alright, Kiwi, what do you got here? Where do you get an unlabeled map? Just type in Phandalin, Lost Mine of Phandelver map, or Phandalin map, and trust me, you will find it. There are plenty out there. There is a guy who will charge you money for the map, because he's the guy who made them. I think Mike Shaley made the maps. He's the one who's responsible for the maps. He does have a site where you can buy them, but if you don't want to buy them because you feel like you don't need a high quality map, all of Mike's maps are high quality, high resolution, and you have to pay for them. But if you want to get them free, you can get the lower resolution, smaller images off the internet. Just do a Google search, you'll find them. They're around. And if you can't find them, you're going to let me know on the HowtoDandD Facebook group, and you'll say, Fred, can we have the maps? and I'll do that. I probably should just post them, but I've been leaving it because I want to do a video on the maps themselves at some point, and that would be a different video. And then I'll post everything. What else we got here? Joe, oh my gosh, bring back the map. Why? Why do you want to bring back the map? I know, Joe. It's my face, eh? I'm that ugly. Oh gosh. You were expecting somebody else. You thought that male voice was actually attached to somebody else. No, it isn't. I'm bound to have somebody comment on my accent. And I'm like, you know, everybody has an accent. I'm losing my voice now anyway. Dear Jesus, on the map I had players list their route depending on where they went. There was a chance to have a run-in with the red brands, especially near the manor and the sleeping giant. Yeah, okay, so here's a question I have for those people. Yeah, Mike Shaley is the guy who does the maps. He does very good maps. Thank you, Darren. Somebody was asking me a question about the sleeping giant tap house. Fred, there's no information on the sleeping tap house, on the sleeping giant tap house. What do I do? You can do anything you like. If you want me to do a video on it, I will. But I feel like it's unnecessary. The chances are you won't go to somewhere like the sleeping giant because there's too many red brands there. They're all hanging out getting stonkered. So why would you go to the most dangerous location in town? Well, chances are you might. But it is an open book, and I feel like if I make a video, unless there's a huge demand for me to do a video on the sleeping giant tap house, I won't do it, because that's what you as a dungeon master can build. And it's like building a saloon. How much information is on taverns? Huge amounts. It's a tavern, right? It's just a tavern. I don't want to spend a lot of time on taverns. You know my feeling about taverns. Yeah. Don't want to meet in the tavern. Just blow it up and burn it down. Mason Knight. Frida is a spy for who? What's their goal and why? Now, I don't think that Frida is a spy. Halia Thornton is a spy for the Zentarum. But Frida, I don't think, is a spy. You could have her be a spy. I feel like her motivations are less about being a spy than anything else, but if you want to go along that route, then that's fine. I didn't see anything in the adventure that sort of suggested that to me, so I didn't go with that particular route. What I did is I had Frida seem more like an individual who was really concerned about the welfare of Phandalin, and pointing the characters to somebody who might really be able to help them deal with the red brand issue. That was my sort of goal and why I was presenting it that way. Dear Jesus, you've had such a huge part to play in this live stream, Dear Jesus. Some really good feedback. I got Mike's maps, and they have 3 of different views of the map for DMs and players, and a non-grid view. So in other words, you get 3 types of maps for every map. One was for the Dungeon Master, one for the players, and one that is got no grid. Well, it's actually quite cool. I think that's a really good, because then it sort of opens it up. It makes it easier for you to sort of present things in an organic manner. And I imagine he had all of that stuff sitting around anyway. Okay, well, that's good. Hey, I'm going to take off since there's no more. Darren P. Me too. Okay. Yes, Darren, you did have some very good feedback. I don't want to leave anybody out. If I have not mentioned you and you gave good feedback, it's not because I forgot about you. Yes, it is. It is because I forgot about you, but don't take it personally. Thank you for all of your feedback. It's been wonderful. Okay, I'm about to take off, but here we go. Dear Jesus is not letting me go. We're staying put by the looks of it. There is a website called Rouster Beta to convert pictures to poster size and print by regular printer. Okay, well, that's good. We will discuss this more, dear Jesus. There's going to be a video about maps. I know I know people want maps, lots of maps. Big maps, little maps, maps you can print out, maps that you can use for running your game. I've always wanted to print out those maps so I could lay them out and do a live stream and then show you the location of all the monsters and NPCs so you could see the density and how they feed into the situation and location. I just never got round to doing it. Chances are I will probably just draw it by hand if I have like lots and lots of time and can't find anything better to do with myself, which I find unlikely. Okay. Hey, thank you for everybody who showed up. Hopefully this was useful to you. What is happening next week? We are going to cover the Lost Mine of Phandelver again. Who are we going to cover? I'm not going to tell. You'll find out. You'll find out. Tomorrow is my day off. I will be doing some painting. And after that, so tomorrow I'll be doing some, no painting? No, I'm making a miniature. I'm going to make I think it's an air elemental. For those of you who are interested, you can hang around. Otherwise, I will catch up with everybody later on, some of the day. You guys have a good day, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Oh, that's a bad thing to say. And look after yourself, look after your family, and I'll see you later.